going to pick up from where we did yesterday. Now, let's see. Okay. Now, like esters, acids. I didn't cough all day till I started talking. Esters, as you remember from your last test, is a combination of an alcohol and an acid. Very similarly, amides are a combination of an amine and an acid, except they're not as stable. Now, the oxygen is more electronegative than the nitrogen because it goes oops. So increasing electronegativity. Negativity. So that's one of the reasons why the esters are a little more stable than amides, although amides aren't too bad. All right. Now, if you remember when we were making esters, there are three ways to make an ester. There's the alcohol and acid way. And let's do this differently. Okay, so ways to make an ester. So we have the acid plus alcohol anhydride plus alcohol. And we have the acid chloride plus the alcohol. Okay, and this with increasing yield, giving the acid chloride the most, because the acid chloride is the least stable. Okay, with amides, theoretically, we can have the acid plus the amine, the anhydride plus the amine, and the acid chloride. Very similar to esters, except for one problem. The acid, same thing, the yield. The problem with the acid and the amine, though, the reaction is so slow to the point where it's not even kind of a doable thing. So we don't even think about that. So we're left with the two other ways, the anhydride and the acid chloride, plus the amine to make the amide. Okay, so again, think analogously to the esters. Okay, let's see here. Okay, another important distinction is you have to have a free hydrogen attached to the nitrogen or the on the amine. One or two work fine. That means primary and secondary will form an amine, excuse me, will form an amide, but the tertiary one is lacking that hydrogen. Okay, doesn't matter what this is over here. You still need the hydrogen. Okay. These are just that includes aromatic um, amines and aromatic acids. Like this is the acid chloride for benzoic acid on the left here. In the secondary amine, dimethylamine, we end up with now, I'm going to talk about naming in a minute. So instead of benzoate, it's going to be benzamide, benzamide. Okay, and here we have a couple methyl groups off the nitrogen, so it's going to be N dimethyl benzamide. So however many there are there needs to correspond with the number of N's. So if there were, for some reason, 3 methyl groups, you'd have N trimethyl benzamide. Okay. So when you're thinking about naming, like with esters, the alcohol part of an ester is named first. So in this case, the amine part is named first, then the acid will follow. Okay, here is a flow chart for amines and amides. An amine in water will form the ammonium ion. In anhydride or acid chloride environment, you'll form an amide. And then in an acid environment, you'll form the salt. So it forms the salt either in water or in an acidic environment. Doesn't have to be HCl. It can be sulfuric nitric acid, doesn't matter. Okay, now there's a lot of plastics that are made with amides, and plastics we're not going to cover in this class because it's not um, a allied health scope. We're only going to cover natural polymers like cellulose and amylose and that kind of stuff. So don't worry about this. A very early um, synthetic polymer was discovered using um, amides, and that's nylon. Nylon, um, gosh, has been produced from the 30s, possibly even the 20s. It's a pretty old polymer, been around a long time. There's a lot of biochemicals that have nitrogen in them. Um, a lot of the neurotransmitters are nitrogen based. Um, um, Acetylcholine, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, um, lots and lots of biochemicals that are nitrogen based. As you can see, it's just they're really prevalent. So the chemistry of nitrogen in biochemistry is real important because it's so ubiquitous. You can see some of these um, um, neurotransmitters have amino acid as a precursor, like this tyrosine, for example. Um, Now, you do not have to know all these biochemicals I'm going over now, just FYI. I'm surprised no one asks. I just want to give you examples of. They're just all over the place. Um, Alkaloids is another very large class of organic compounds. And this is what upsets me, actually, is that we're continually burning down and stripping our rainforests of natural habitat to raise cattle. And a lot of the alkaloids are found in tropical environments. So what we're doing is we're just erasing a huge resource of possible alkaloids that could be used in health treatments, all kinds of stuff. And we're raising cattle, which is like the worst thing you can do is raise cattle. Cattle promote unhealthy land management. They promote uh, gases for global warming. They're just, ugh. Anyway, off my soapbox. Caffeine's another example. So on your lab packet, I don't know if you noticed, this is the chemical on the outside of your lab packet. That's interesting. some of the structures that nitrogen gets involved in. I mean, look at this kind of bicyclic nitrogen compound here. I can't imagine the chemists that came up with this structure. So these two chemicals, I don't know why I redraw that. Here's heroin. And the only difference between heroin, codeine, and morphine are these two groups. So this is how you get black tar heroin, is you start with morphine, very easy to get, and you react the two hydroxyl groups in yellow and make them ethers. And now you have heroin. Heroin was invented during, that's why black tar heroin is so cheap. It's very easy to make. Heroin was invented during Civil War, and it was invented as a non-addictive painkiller because morphine is addictive. And so they invented heroin. I used to, now my ex-wife has them. I had from the 1800s, I had a leather-bound encyclopedia of chemistry. And it was weirdly organized. And they did it in, like, heroin had a chapter. Instead of talking about nitrogen or something, like heroin had a chapter, it was more of a alchemist version of chemistry in those days. Anyway, and they went on to praise heroin as being this wonderful new drug. And it's just as powerful, quote unquote, as morphine, and it's non-habit forming. That's what was kind of interesting. But going from here to, oops, let's see here. So methanol at 140 degrees C will take you from morphine to heroin. I'm going to make a note here. This is called black tar heroin. Extremely impure, particularly when you're making it in a home lab. But anyway, my point is it's crazy how street drugs are made. Methamphetamine was used during World War II with the big time with the Germans, but also by other countries to keep their soldiers awake. And the formula to make, or the procedure to make that was designed by the Germans to be made in the field. That's why it was so easy to make methamphetamine in the field. Very dangerous, however. There's a lot of explosions and stuff, but at the time, the precursors were easily obtained, and they made it. So interesting how history is. Okay, so let's go on. Here's the heroin right there, and here are the Actually, this is these are esters. So this would be instead of an ether, you would have uh, the acid chloride or the anhydride. Let's make that would be diethyl anhydride. Okay, naming. Um, so the oic from the acid goes to amide. Now, the benzoic acid forming an amine is different than the ester version because the ester we use, well, I guess it's not benzoate. Yeah, this is the same thing. Never mind. Um, now, this assumes this compound here is a very simple one, hydrogens only here. If we had methyl groups or or whatever, we'd have to have a N designation under the name. Like these guys. So this is a one carbon acid with a methyl group coming off the nitrogen. And there's a common name. This is the IUPAC. Because it uses the meth instead of the form version of the one carbon acid. Here we have a two carbon acid with two methyl groups coming off the nitrogen. So it's going to be N dimethyl amide. Also, I posted more worksheets, actually a combination worksheet, and also a flow chart. Now, on the flow chart, you need to download it before it'll open. I don't know why it won't open in Canvas, but it doesn't. The other one, let's just go jump over to Canvas and let me show you.
Welcome to Los Rios Duo Security. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, I had to load Canvas, it wasn't loaded. Okay, if we go to files. Unit 4. Worksheets. Um, this is what I loaded Monday. So more practice, naming, structures from name, reactions. This is a multiple choice with answers. Um, and what I don't like about this is it doesn't use line drawings, it uses these C and H's, which drive me crazy, but it's a good worksheet though. So anyway, those are available for you. Now this loads, it wouldn't load before. Anyway, here's the flow chart for the reactions. Here's another version of the reactions. This one includes everything on here. Now we're going to talk about proteins a little bit today. Anyway, here's a worksheet regarding proteins as well. This one you have to download first. I don't know why some of them load and some of them, excuse me, some of them don't. Okay. Just wanted to make sure you're aware that I did load extra practice. Okay, so let's get back to this. Okay, now like esters, amides are not as polar as the acid from which it was made. They still have some polar components. The carbonyl group has got some partial negative and positive properties, as well as the nitrogen group here. So this is going to be so that's going to give the polarity of an amide, these two groups here. So that a lot of them are soluble in water. Depends on how big this R group is. If it's really big, and it's nonpolar, it could overcome, excuse me, it could overcome the polarity of the nitrogen and oxygens here. And here are around, remember the with alcohols and acids that this was 7 carbons. With amides, it's 6 carbons, but same general area. Okay, like with esters in an acid or base environment, they can come apart. And it comes apart to if the pH so we have pH alkaline, pH acidic. So this, so say we have that. Okay, in an acidic environment, we end up with the protonated acid. And a protonated amine. Okay, in a basic environment, we're going to end up with the salt. Plus the dimethylamine. And then we need to warm these also. Now, this is biologically, this is a really important reaction because this is how we digest protein. And all that's done by protease enzyme and pH of 2 also. Okay, and this is what I just went over. Let's see here. And again, you can see these nitrogen compounds used extensively in biochemistry and biological compounds. These are wildly complicated to synthesize from scratch, like early penicillin, diazepam kind of stuff. It's just they're so complex that when you're trying to make them, sometimes you inadvertently make something else because you've got all these functional groups all over the place that react easily. So, okay, so that's it on amines and amides. So again, I want you to focus on your knowledge of esters from Unit 3 and apply that to amides. But the concept is the same. You're taking two substances together, one being an acid plus an alcohol or an amine, and creating the ester amine. Okay, so I want to encourage you to download those worksheets and get some practice doing these. Okay, so I want to touch upon proteins today. That's the second part of Unit 4. I want to start proteins today because we're going to be getting into enzymes and all kinds of stuff with proteins. Okay, so all of you already know that proteins are made up of amino acids, and there's lots of different kinds of amino acids. Amino acid is an amine group plus an acid. Now, alpha amino acids have only one carbon between the amine and the acidic part, one carbon. And that's where the amino acids differ, is in the side chains. And the side chains go from a plain old hydrogen like glycine to some very complex structures. It just varies. You can also have multiple carbons and multiple carbons. For example, this is a beta so this is an alpha amino acid. And all of you have probably heard of so the G stands for gamma. And so it would have three carbons between the amino group and the acidic end. And notice I show the acidic end as being ionic, and the amino end is being ionic as well, because at pH physiological pH, approximately a little tiny bit alkaline. This is the way the amino acids look. Okay. Now, there are four basic groups of amino acids. Which is the R group, usually referred to, or side chains. Okay, they can be neutral, non-ionic, or neutral and polar. Either ionic or Um, typically, typically H bonded, like an alcohol here. Non-polar, we used a whole bunch of alkanes, or H. And then there's basic and acidic groups, side chains. This is a real important one. Um, and the reason why it's important is because this is a frequent amino acid. When a protein folds, it forms an SS crosslink, a covalent SS crosslink, meaning it's very strong. For example, your hair is a good example of a protein that has cysteine crosslinks in it. And that's the reason why your hair is either curly or straight. It's because of those cysteine crosslinks. Okay, so here are the actual amino acids. Divvied up into the four groups. Now, going back to unit 2, we talked about chiral carbons. Remember, chiral carbons um, four different batch groups. For example, if this was, let's say this was, this R here was a methyl group. This C here would be chiral because we have four different groups attached to that carbon. So that means it's D and L. D and L comes from chiral carbons. Now with amino acid, the natural form is going to be the L form, not the D form like carbohydrates. Now what's interesting is MSG, monosodium glutamate, comes from glutamic acid, or in the ionized form, glutamate. Now the natural form is L glutamate. When you buy MSG at the store, it is DL glutamate. It's supposed to be a D. And this is the culprit that people can be allergic to, is the D form of MSG. Because we make internally glutamate. We make it, but we make the L form. So if we make it, we're not going to be allergic to it. But when we introduce the D form into our bodies, we may or may not um, like it and form an allergic reaction to it. Okay.
Hey, are you able to, what was the D and L difference that you said?
It has to do with
That's the
left
chirality?
the what?
That's the chiral or not?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And that's just on the placement of,
Well,
um,
it's a left and right hand deal.
gotcha.
Okay. Left and right hand have four fingers, one thumb, one palm, but they aren't the same molecule. Now, one amino acid is not L form or D form because it's not chiral. So we've got an H and an H. So there aren't four independent or four different attached groups. So glycine is not that carbon is not chiral, hence it is neither D nor L. Okay. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that again, pH, physiological pH is a tiny, tiny bit alkaline, except for our stomachs, of course. So the form of the amino acids, if they're by themselves, not in a polypeptide, if they're by themselves, they will form where the H goes over to the amine side, and we have what's called a Zwitter ion. And if anyone speaks German or Swiss, I forgot the origin of Zwitter. Does anyone speak that's online?
Yeah, German. They're very similar, German and Swiss German.
Okay. Do you speak German?
Enough to get by.
Do you know what does Zwitter mean in German?
Zveta, I don't know. Zveta. I mean, it reminds me of something that means like between or two, but I'm not sure Zveta is something different completely.
No. I should look that up. I keep every time I lecture on this, I always ask someone in the group whether they speak German, and every person, no exceptions, has said it's similar to something, but they never heard it specifically written this way or the concept is this. So anyway, I should just look it up and end the debate. Okay. Anyway, bottom line is this is the way amino acids need to be um, um, represented as ionic. So hence they're very soluble in water. Whenever you have ionic intermolecular forces, it's very. Session has expired. What?
I think I found it's. I guess it is kind of. Can you still hear us, by the way? Oh, session has expired. Well,
I can hear you.
oh,
I can
um,
I can hear you too.
oh, okay, okay.
Zoom locked me or signed me out.
Oh, and
So
you're
yeah,
still here.
yeah, maybe,
Interesting.
maybe we should just. Can everyone see the whiteboard?
Yeah, I can still see the slide that's up.
Yeah, I can see and hear everything.
Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about it then. I was just trying
Perfect.
to log back in and they want to know my Zoom password, and I didn't give myself a Zoom password. The IT department did, so I don't know what it is.
Well, if it's working now.
Okay, I want to end on this point here, the isoelectric point. This is a really cool concept. Okay, and this has to do with what, now we're looking at a protein now, or an amino acid. It applies to both. So it can be a dipeptide, a tripeptide, a polypeptide, or a protein. They all have amino acids, and all amino acids have side chains. Now, interestingly, when you get to the point of taking all the side chains together, and some proteins can have thousands of them, and then you look at what is canceling what from a pH perspective. So you look at the basic ones and the acidic ones, And you reach a point where it favors the acidic side or the basic side, or it's equally balanced. Okay. And this is applies to proteins and polypeptides as well, not just amino acids. Excuse me. Okay. All proteins, for example, casein in milk has got an isoelectric point of 4.5. Okay. If the pH of the solution let's see. Okay, first of all, casein protein is dissolved in a water bath inside the milk. And it's not precipitated out. It's not solidified. And that's because the isoelectric point of casein is around 4 to 4.5. So it's above the pH of the isoelectric point. So it stays negatively charged. If we brought the pH of milk down, so we're figuring the pH of milk is, say 7.5, a little over neutral. And we start approaching the isoelectric point of that protein, what happens is we start getting less and less negative charge to when we hit 4.5. When we hit 4.5, the net charge is 0. Hence, the protein solidifies out because it's nonpolar now in a polar solvent. So what happens? Solidifies out. So, who knows how to make cheese? Has anyone made
I made mozzarella before.
That's interesting. We should talk about that after. I've been trying to make that. Anyway, has anyone made paneer or cottage cheese or any of those type soft cheeses?
I've made yogurt, but not cottage cheese.
Okay, when you made yogurt, what did you start with?
Technically old yogurt that I had from my previous container of yogurt, because you need yogurt to make yogurt in my proving oven.
Mhm. And why is that?
Because of the isn't it the probiotics that are in it?
Exactly, the lactobacillus bacteria in it.
Mm.
And the reason why lactobacillus bacteria are called lactobacillus because it makes lactic acid. Lactic acid, the more lactic acid you have around, the pH keeps getting lower and lower and lower. And all of a sudden, you get to the isoelectric point of casein protein and you have yogurt. And the reason why yogurt has a slight tangy taste is because of the lactic acid from the probiotic lactobacillus bacteria. So leave milk out on the counter. What happens? It turns,
It spoils.
yes. And when you know it's spoiled or old milk in the refrigerator, you forgot about, what's in it?
It usually thickens and then it smells.
Yeah, well, that's because of the butyric acid. No, but the thickens part is what's happening is because the bacteria is again producing lactic acid. The lactic acid lowers the pH. The pH approaches the isoelectric point of that protein, hence it becomes non-polar. Boom, separates out. It's really a cool concept. And this is another concept when you want to purify proteins. This is one technique they use, is if you have two proteins with differing isoelectric points, you can modify the pH where one precipitates out and the other stays in solution by modifying the pH as it relates to the isoelectric point. It's a very, very powerful concept. It isn't taught very much either. It bugs me that I talk to a lot of professors and they've never heard of isoelectric point. So interesting. So if it's above the isoelectric point, the pH, it's going to be negative value. If you go below it, it's going to be a positive value. Either case, it's going to be soluble in water. Okay, so I wanted to end on a really cool topic. I think it's a cool topic.
I agree. Now I understand how to make yogurt better. It's kind of easy though. You just leave it on the counter and it makes more yogurt.
Yeah, well, you can thank those, like you said, the probiotic bacteria, those lactobacillus. It isn't just lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is the most common bacteria that produces lactic acid, but any bacteria that ferments produces lactic acid also. So there's lots of bacteria that produce lactic acid, not just lactobacillus. And so that's why you can get different kinds of cheeses.
I was about to be like, is that why you get different kinds of cheese or different types of yogurt per
Yeah,
se?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you inoculate the cheese. And when you inoculate the cheese, you're inoculating it with certain kinds of bacteria that produce varying kinds of acid, which affects the pH. So isn't this cool?
Agreed. I think it's cool.
Okay, so anyway, I wanted to end here. Um, and let's see. I see Gina is front and center here. Are you coming to lab today, Gina?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right, I'll have your bowl for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the cookies. They were really good. I must admit, though, I didn't eat them all myself. I gave away a couple of them, and everyone raved about them.
Yay. I have my recipe card for you so that you can make them on your own because they're actually a pretty good cookie recipe and it's pretty easy to make.
Yeah, I've always found chocolate chip cookies are easy to make. Like right now, I'm in the process of making Italian brajol for tomorrow. I have a friend that has a daughter that's getting over MRSA, and they've been to the
Oh,
hospital.
MRSA
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah, I know. She's been in the hospital 7 days. So
Oh,
um,
that's not too bad. Usually I've seen most cases are 14 to 21, depending on when they get caught.
yeah, my son-in-law also had it, and they had to operate on him. Um, and he was in the hospital about 10 days, and uh, they cut a big hole in his foot.
Oh, it was in his foot.
Yeah, in the top.
Okay. The last time I treated a patient that had really bad MRSA, it was from a scrape on a knee. And by the time he came back into us, it's been like 23 or 25 days. His whole knee went septic, and we ended up amputating his above the knee off because it was so bad. It destroyed the joint so quickly that he couldn't keep his knee anymore.
Well, the surgeon told my son-in-law, had he not come in that night because he had fever and he was shaking and everything, and they operated on his foot that night, it would have got into his bone and they would have had to amputate.
Yep. That's why MRSA is really serious. Staph can turn into MRSA. It's also very spreadable. Be careful, people.
And what bugs me, there's C and H versions of that, and a lot of times you get the H version, and you get the H version at the hospital
Yep.
versus the community where he got his on a farm. He's a painter, and his company was painting a barn or something like that in this farm in Elk Grove,
What the heck?
and he thinks because the wound looked like a spider bite. That's why they didn't pay attention to it. They just dabbed some Neosporin on it and said, "Have a nice day." And then that night is when he was shivering and shaking, and um, he lives about 2 blocks from the Sutter Hospital in Davis, and so it was a real quickie thing to bring him to the ER, and they admitted him that night.
He's lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah, that's what the surgeon was saying. And he was very and then he had nurses visit him 3 times a week to drain the wound. And he had that machine that sucks the fluid out of
Hmm.
the what is the name of that?
I mean, so it's a form of a suction. It's a form of a handheld suction, usually.
Yeah, and the surgeon was saying that device improves healing by 50%.
Oh yeah, you can really make sure that there's no infection because again, we heal from the inside out, but our scab will form quicker than we are healing sometimes, and so you got to make sure that it's completely drained out. Or you're just going to keep getting more and more infection. And MRSA is one of those that you touch it the wrong way, it'll spread somewhere else. And it's just such a gnarly disease,
Yeah.
infection really.
Is it getting worse?
With the amount of MRSA, no, I think more people are getting more aware of like signs and symptoms of it's like this is no longer a really angry zit. It's turning into something else. And that's the best part that we just tell people is that if you feel unwell and this is not normal to your body, just go in, try to advocate for urgent care use as much as possible.
Yeah. They vary in quality, urgent cares.
Oh yeah, they do.
I've I don't know, sometimes I'd rather just wait it out in the ER.
Yeah, I worked at both in ER. I worked at ERs and urgent cares. I prefer to work at urgent cares, but I can understand why someone wouldn't want to go to an urgent care because I've also had it where, I had a gunshot wound, a patient, a gunshot wound in his hand. We had an X-ray machine, so we could have made sure it was totally fine. And my doctor was like, "I don't want to see this. Send him to the ED." And I'm like, "Dude, we could totally cheat it." He missed all the good parts in his hand and went through the meat. Like it's very simple, and still didn't want to see it. It's like, all right, whatever.
Okay, well, that's what I had for today. And now Wednesday lab folks, we're going to be doing the infrared spectrophotometry. So I have already a scan of commercial aspirin for you. I did on Monday. And then each group is going to come up with their own aspirin. And I told them about how wonderful aspirin is for keeping cut flowers fresh for longer. Um, so some of the people were going to dump it. And I said, no, 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 no. Either give it to
Please keep it.
Gina,
I'll
yeah,
take it.
yeah, or take it home, either way. I said, don't throw it out though. Um, so anyway, you're going to run your sample and then you're going to compare the two. So it won't take very long. The machine is not going to be kind of persnickety. It kept initializing right in the middle of some things. We had to wait, and it's older than a lot of you. It's a really old, and it has the first version of Windows. So it is really an antique. I mean, we're talking um, mid to late 80s. This thing is vintage. When you see the computer it's attached to, you'll say, yep, vintage. But it's still running though. And we have 4 infrareds in the apartment. This one is still running. And the other 3 are intermittently going out because of their the Fourier transform instruments, and the head on them gets worn out either through poor cleaning or not cleaning at all. Where this old one is just rugged as heck. It's like a Model A versus, a modern car. They're so simple that they're easy to keep going. Huh? So anyway, that's what we're doing for today. Is and it won't take very long. If you're the first one to go, it'll take you all of 10 minutes. So, and that's all we're doing today, infrared only. No melting point, just infrared. Okay, so any other questions?
Are you going to be a lab at 2:30 or 3?
I will shoot for 2:30. Yesterday I was there, or Monday I was there, I think at 20 till or quarter till, something like that. I
Perfect.
will
Thank you, Professor.
I'll shoot for 2:30 though. For 2 reasons. One, I need to make sure that thing is working. And I have people that like to come early, so.
Sorry if
Well-
you can hear the yard work outside. I was just wondering if you had my test as well, the last one from test 2. If you could bring that as well, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
If you can't find it, no worries. Like, it's a test old.
Yeah, let me, 'cause I don't bring my laptop. But I will bring the stack of tests that I do have. This 1 and 2 that's left over.
There you go. I'll free one of them off your hands, so you don't have to keep it with you.
Okay, okay, any other comments or questions? All right, I will see you guys Wednesday, folks, today. If you didn't pick up your test on Monday for whatever reason, I'm not on campus except Monday, Wednesday, because I teach at Sierra. So if you didn't pick up your test Monday and you're on campus today, swing by and grab your tests. If not, I'll see you next week.
All right, see ya.
Take care, you guys.
Thanks, Professor. See you later.